There are things hiding in the deep woods of North America, things the official reports refuse to acknowledge.
Guys, what is that? Please? What is that? I'm just gonna move a little bit away from it and come back to it. There it is. It's right on the water's edge, and the signature is getting bigger.
We're told Bigfoot is a myth, a campfire story. But what about the hundreds of credible eyewitness accounts? The chilling audio recordings?
I was responding back to them. And that was probably the most unique Bigfoot encounter I've ever had.
And the impossible footprints left behind. The government has teams dedicated to debunking these sightings. But some pieces of evidence are so compelling, so terrifying, they can't be explained away. We're about to show you the footage and the files they hoped would stay buried forever. These aren't just stories, they're warnings. What you're about to see will change the way you look at the wilderness. When the forest screams. It's one thing to see a blurry figure in the distance. It's another thing entirely to hear it. In 1971, in the remote Sierra Nevada mountains of California, two investigators named Al Berry and Ron Moorhead recorded something that has baffled scientists for decades. Known as the Sierra Sounds, these recordings captured a series of guttural grunts, whoops, and what sounds eerily like a complex, guttural language. It's funny when you think about it. We assume language is a uniquely human trait, but what if it's not? The audio reveals an incredible acoustic range, far beyond what a human or any known North American animal can produce. Some of the vocalizations are so low, they're barely audible, while others are high-pitched screams that would require immense lung capacity. Linguists who have analyzed the tapes have been stumped. The sounds don't follow the pattern of a hoaxer trying to make monster noises. Instead, there's a clear back and forth, a conversational pattern between what sounds like multiple creatures. They dub this chatter samurai because of its rhythmic, clipped nature. Imagine being out there, miles from civilization, and hearing that in the dark. The recordings also captured something else. The distinct sound of heavy, bipedal footsteps crunching on the forest floor and the sharp crack of wood being struck against trees. A behavior known as tree knocking, often reported during Bigfoot encounters. Skeptics have tried to dismiss the sounds as bears, coyotes, or even elaborate hoaxes. But here's the kicker. No one has ever been able to successfully replicate the complexity and vocal range of the Sierra Sounds. They remain one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for an unknown primate. But this wasn't the first time the sounds of these creatures were linked to a terrifying encounter. You have to go all the way back to 1924, to a place in Washington state that would later be named Ape Canyon. This story is so wild, so unsettling, that it sounds like something out of a horror movie. 5 prospectors were working a claim deep in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. For days, they had been unnerved by strange whistles and the sight of massive, human-like footprints around their cabin. One of the miners, Fred Beck, saw a 7-foot-tall, ape-like creature peering at him from behind a tree. In a moment of panic, he fired his rifle at it. He believed he hit the creature, which then scrambled off a cliff and disappeared into the gorge below. That night, their cabin was attacked. For hours, the miners huddled in terror as massive, hairy creatures bombarded their cabin with heavy rocks and logs. They pounded on the walls, the roof, and the door, screaming in a language the men couldn't understand. The men fired their rifles through the walls whenever they heard the creatures trying to break in. The siege lasted all night. At dawn, when the sun finally came up, the creatures retreated. The miners fled the canyon, leaving all their equipment behind, and never returned. When investigators later examined the cabin, they found huge dents in the logs and dozens of large, human-like footprints all around the area. The Ape Canyon attack is a cornerstone of Bigfoot lore, a chilling account that suggests these creatures are not just gentle giants, but powerful, territorial beings capable of coordinated, violent behavior when threatened. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If they were just a myth, where did a story this detailed and terrifying come from? The government's official stance? A group of local youths were throwing rocks at the cabin as a prank. But that explanation falls apart when you consider the sheer size of the boulders that were thrown, some weighing over 30 pounds, and the remote, inaccessible location of the cabin. It was no place for a prank. The minor story never changed over the years, and they all passed lie detector tests. It seems far more likely that they encountered something real, something powerful, and something the authorities would rather just sweep under the rug. A secret that big can't stay hidden forever, especially when people start going missing. Vanished in the woods. Let's talk about something truly disturbing. There's a phenomenon known as missing 411. It's a term coined by former police detective David Paulides, who spent years investigating a massive cluster of mysterious disappearances in North American national parks. These aren't your typical missing person cases. We're talking about people vanishing in broad daylight, often just a few feet away from their families, without a single trace. No footprints, no scent for search dogs to follow, nothing. It's as if they were plucked from the face of the earth. Paulides identified several strange patterns in these cases. The disappearances often happen near granite boulder fields or bodies of water. The victims are frequently the very young or the elderly. And weirdest of all, when the bodies are found, they are often in areas that had already been thoroughly searched, sometimes miles away and at much higher elevations, with their shoes and clothing mysteriously removed. So what does this have to do with Bigfoot? Well, here's where it gets creepy. The geographical hotspots for these strange disappearances overlap almost perfectly with the areas that have the highest number of Bigfoot sightings. Think about it. The Pacific Northwest, the Sierra Nevadas, the Appalachian Mountains. It's a chilling correlation. Could an 800-pound bipedal predator be responsible for some of these unsolved cases? It's a possibility that law enforcement and the National Park Service refuse to even discuss publicly. In fact, Paulides has stated that when he tried to get official records and case files from the Park Service, he was met with incredible resistance and was told that they don't keep a centralized database of missing people. A claim that is, frankly, unbelievable for a federal agency. It's almost as if there's a deliberate effort to keep this information from the public. Consider the story of Albert Ostman, a Canadian prospector who, in 1924, claimed he was abducted and held captive by a family of Sasquatch for 6 days. He described them as a family unit, an older male and female, and 2 younger offspring. He said they were mostly peaceful, but he was their prisoner. He eventually escaped when the large male Bigfoot choked on Ostman's can of snuff tobacco. It sounds crazy, right? But Ostman told his story under oath, and like the miners from Ape Canyon, he never wavered from his account for the rest of his life. This points to a larger, more unsettling possibility. If the government knows about the existence of a giant, undiscovered primate species living in our wilderness, a species that could be potentially dangerous, admitting it would cause mass panic. It would destroy the tourism industry that our national parks depend on. Can you imagine the headlines? Government admits 8-foot-tall apes roam national parks. It would be chaos. So it's not a huge leap to think they would actively suppress evidence and discredit witnesses to maintain public order and protect economic interests. They would label credible sightings as bear encounters and attribute mysterious disappearances to people simply getting lost. It's the easiest, cleanest explanation. But for the families of the missing, and for the people who have come face to face with these creatures, that explanation is not nearly good enough. The truth is, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people have vanished under bizarre circumstances. The official reports are often thin, lacking detail, and quick to close the case. But when you dig deeper, a darker picture emerges. one of a deliberate conspiracy of silence, designed to protect us from a truth we're not ready to handle. But sometimes, the evidence is so clear, it can't be ignored or explained away. Code in the Blood, October 20th, 1967. This is the day everything changed. In a remote area of Northern California known as Bluff Creek, two men, Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, captured something on 16mm film that has become the most debated, analyzed, and famous piece of Bigfoot evidence in history. The footage, just under 1 minute long, shows a large, hairy, bipedal creature walking away from the camera. It's female, with visible muscles that flex and ripple under its fur with each step. At one point, in the now iconic frame 352, the creature turns its head and looks directly at the camera before disappearing into the trees. For over 50 years, experts have torn this film apart, frame by frame. Skeptics immediately cried hoax, claiming it was just a man in a gorilla suit. But the more scientists and special effects artists studied it, the more problems that theory presented. For starters, the creature's proportions are all wrong for a human. It has incredibly long arms, broad shoulders, and a short neck. Its gait, a unique, compliant walk with a bent knee, is unlike anything a human can naturally replicate. Hollywood costume designers, including the legendary John Chambers, who created the costumes for Planet of the Apes, have gone on record saying they couldn't have faked something this realistic with the technology available in 1967. The sheer power and fluidity of the creature's movement are what truly sell it. The muscle movement is anatomically correct for a massive biped. You can see the tendons in its leg, the flexion of its calf muscles. It's not just some guy clomping around in a fur costume. This thing moves with a grace and power that suggests a lifetime of walking this way. Patterson and Gimlin were just two ordinary rodeo guys. They didn't have the resources or the Hollywood connections to pull off a hoax of this magnitude. To this day, the Patterson-Gimlin film remains unexplained. The government and mainstream science have largely ignored it, but they've never been able to definitively prove it's a fake. It just sits there, a 60-second mystery that refuses to go away. But what about physical proof? In recent years, a new frontier has opened up in the search for Bigfoot: DNA analysis. All over the country, researchers have been collecting samples of hair, blood, and tissue found at alleged sighting locations. In 2013, Dr. Melba Ketchum, a veterinarian and forensics expert, published a controversial study in which she claimed to have sequenced the Bigfoot genome. After analyzing over 100 samples, her team concluded that they belonged to a new hominin species, a hybrid of human and some other unknown primate. She claimed the DNA showed that the creature's mitochondrial DNA, which is passed down from the mother, was human. However, the nuclear DNA, which comes from both parents, was a strange, unidentifiable mix. Her study was immediately attacked by the mainstream scientific community for its methodology and for being published in a journal that she herself created. It was a classic case of shooting the messenger. But here's the thing. Other labs have since conducted their own tests on different samples and have gotten similarly strange results. DNA that is primate, but not human, and not any known ape. The samples are often dismissed as being contaminated with human DNA. But what if that's not contamination? What if that's part of the creature's actual genetic makeup? It's a what if so big it would literally rewrite our understanding of human evolution. It's no wonder the official scientific channels want nothing to do with it. It's easier to call it all a hoax than to face the possibility that we are not the only intelligent bipedal primate on this continent. Project Goliath. Why would the government go to such extraordinary lengths to hide the existence of a creature? Preventing public panic and protecting the logging industry makes a certain kind of sense. But some of the theories out there go so much deeper, so much weirder. that they make a simple cover-up look like child's play. It sounds crazy, but stick with me here, because you have to wonder if the truth is far more bizarre than any of us could imagine. One of the most persistent theories is that the United States government isn't just aware of Bigfoot. It has an unofficial, unspoken treaty with them. This theory suggests that Sasquatch are not just animals, but a relict hominid species, a kind of pre-human first people of North America. They are intelligent, self-aware, and have their own society and culture. In this scenario, the government knows that revealing their existence would lead to them being hunted, captured, or driven from their territory. To prevent a genocide against a sentient, non-human species, a secret directive was created. Protect them at all costs. This means discrediting witnesses, debunking evidence, and creating a massive disinformation campaign to paint Bigfoot as a joke. It would also explain the missing 411 connection in a darker light. If someone gets too close, too intrusive, or poses a threat to a Sasquatch family group, maybe the government simply lets nature take its course. It's a chilling thought. A protected species, so secret, they are allowed to defend their territory by any means necessary. Then you have the theories that connect Bigfoot to something not of this world. It's funny when you think about it, but areas with high concentrations of Bigfoot sightings are also often hotspots for UFO activity. Places like Mount Adams in Washington, the Uinta Basin in Utah, and California's Mount Shasta are legendary for both. Is it just a coincidence? Some researchers don't think so. One wild theory proposes that Sasquatch are a kind of alien scout or terraforming agent, dropped on Earth thousands of years ago to monitor our planet's development. Their incredible ability to vanish without a trace might not be woodsmanship. It could be advanced cloaking technology. Another, even stranger idea is that these creatures are interdimensional. They aren't hiding behind trees. They are slipping between dimensions. This would explain why they can appear and disappear in an instant, why they leave tracks that suddenly stop in the middle of nowhere, and why they are often associated with strange lights in the sky and bizarre electrical phenomena. In this view, the government isn't just hiding an ape. It's hiding the fact that our reality has doorways, and these creatures are the gatekeepers. The implications of that are so massive, so reality-shattering, that a cover-up wouldn't just be likely. It would be absolutely necessary to prevent the collapse of our entire understanding of the universe. But perhaps the most terrifying theory doesn't involve ancient treaties or aliens. It involves us. What if Bigfoot isn't an ancient species at all? What if it's new? During the Cold War, secret government programs were dedicated to all kinds of unethical human and animal experiments. There are whispers of a program, sometimes called Project Goliath, that attempted to create the ultimate super soldier by splicing human DNA with that of great apes. The goal was to create a soldier that was incredibly strong, resilient, and could live off the land in harsh environments. The theory goes that the project was a success, but the resulting creatures were too intelligent and too wild to be controlled. They escaped or were released from a secret underground lab and have been breeding in the wild ever since. When you put it all together, the picture it paints is both incredible and terrifying. Beyond the campfire, it's easy to call the witnesses liars or kooks, but when you start to connect the dots, a pattern emerges that is hard to ignore. We have hundreds of consistent eyewitness accounts from credible people, loggers, hunters, police officers, and even scientists, all describing the same creature. We have thousands of giant, unexplainable footprints with dermal ridges and mid-tarsal breaks, features that are nearly impossible to fake. We have haunting audio recordings of a complex, guttural language. We have the Patterson-Gimlin film, a piece of footage that has stumped the experts for half a century. And we have tantalizing DNA evidence that suggests a new hybrid species. The thing is, none of this happens in a vacuum. You start to wonder, what does it all mean if this is real? It means there is a massive, undiscovered animal living right on our doorstep, an animal that has managed to avoid capture and classification for centuries. It's a creature that is clearly intelligent, powerful, and possibly even dangerous. What if the reason there's no type specimen, no body on a slab, is because they are smart enough to bury their dead? We do it. Elephants mourn their dead. Why is it so hard to believe another intelligent primate would do the same? Maybe the real question isn't whether Bigfoot is real, but whether we are ready for it to be real. Think of the implications. It would change everything we thought we knew about our own history and our place in the natural world. Are we missing a key detail in our own evolution? And what about the government's role in all of this? The silence from official sources is deafening. The resistance to investigate, the dismissal of evidence, the quiet ridicule of witnesses, it all points to something being hidden. It's funny when you think about it. They'll spend millions of dollars searching for a rare insect in the Amazon, but they won't spend a dime to investigate a potential North American ape. Why? Maybe it's because they already know what's out there, and they've made a calculated decision that we, the public, are better off not knowing. The truth might just be too big, too disruptive, and far too terrifying. Are these just campfire stories? Or is there a massive government cover-up hiding the truth about Bigfoot? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more secrets they don't want you to know.